Welcome. In this unit, we'll explore the plant kingdom, a broad evolutionary journey that begins with simple, mostly aquatic algae and rises through bryophytes and vascular cryptogams to the seed bearing gymnosperms and the diverse flowering angiosperms. Along the way, we'll focus on the adaptations that allowed plants to move from water onto land and to diversify into the forms we see today. To guide our path, we'll move step by step, starting with an introduction to classification, then looking at algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and finally angiosperms. Thinking of these groups in order helps reveal the key innovations, from thalloid bodies to vascular tissue, seeds, and flowers, that shaped plant evolution. Before diving into groups, it helps to understand how botanists classify plants. There are artificial systems based on superficial traits, natural systems that use anatomy and embryology, and phylogenetic systems that reflect evolutionary relationships. Modern tools like numerical methods, cytotaxonomy, and chemotaxonomy make classification more objective, and over time, some organisms, like cyanobacteria, have been reclassified as our knowledge improved. Let's start with algae. Algae are chlorophyll bearing, typically simple and thalloid organisms that live largely in aquatic environments. They occur as single cells, colonial forms like volvox, filamentous types such as Spirogyra or Eulothrix, and large multicellular kelps. Reproduction can be vegetative, asexual via zoospores, or sexual, ranging from isogamy to oogamy. Ecologically, they fix carbon and produce dissolved oxygen, forming the base of many aquatic food chains. And they provide useful products like algin, carrageen, agar, and protein rich chlorella. Algae are divided into major classes with distinct pigments and storage materials. The three familiar groups are the green algae, Chlorophyceae, brown algae, Phaeophyceae, and red algae, Rhodophyceae. Each group differs in chlorophyll types, accessory pigments, cell wall components, and reproductive features, and those differences help explain their habitats and life strategies. Focusing on Chlorophyceae, these green algae appear grass green because they contain chlorophyll A and B. Their chloroplasts come in many shapes: discoid, cup shaped, reticulate, spiral, or ribbon like, and often contain pyrenoids where starch and some proteins are stored. Their cell walls are largely cellulose with pectose layers, and they reproduce by fragmentation, flagellated zoospores, or diverse sexual modes. Representative genera include Chlamydomonas, Volvox, Spirogyra, Eulothrix, and Cara. Phaeophyceae, or brown algae, are mostly marine and owe their brown color to pigments like fucoxanthin combined with chlorophylls and carotenoids. They store carbohydrates as laminarin or mannitol, and their bodies are differentiated into holdfasts, stipes, and fronds. Reproduction often involves biflagellate zoospores with two unequal lateral flagella. Common examples are Laminaria, Sargassum, Fucus, and Dictyota. Rhodophyceae, the red algae, are dominated by phycoerythrin, which lets many species live at greater depths than other algae. They store Floridian starch and typically release non-motile spores. Sexual reproduction is often oogamous, with complex post-fertilization development. Red algae include taxa such as Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria, and Gelidium, many of which have important commercial uses. Moving on to land plants, bryophytes are often called the amphibians of the plant world because they thrive in damp, shaded places and help prevent soil erosion. They have a thallus-like or leafy gametophyte attached by rhizoids and lack true roots, stems, and leaves. The dominant generation is the haploid gametophyte. Male organs called antheridia produce flagellated sperm, while female Archegonia produce a single egg. The sporophyte is small and dependent on the gametophyte, and typically consists of a foot, seta, and capsule where spores form. Within bryophytes, we find liverworts and mosses. Liverworts, for example Marchantia, often have a dorsiventral thallus and can reproduce asexually by fragmentation or by gemmae in special cups. Their sporophyte includes foot, seta, and capsule. Mosses, by contrast, begin as a filamentous protonema before producing the leafy gametophyte. Their sporophytes are often more elaborate and well adapted for spore dispersal. Typical moss genera include Funaria, Polytrichum, and Sphagnum. The next major step is the vascular cryptogams, or pteridophytes, the first true land plants with xylem and phloem. Here the diploid sporophyte becomes dominant, with clear roots, stems, and leaves. Leaves may be microphylls, as in Selaginella, or macrophylls, as in typical ferns. Reproduction involves sporangia borne on sporophylls and spores that germinate into a small, usually thalloid prothallus. Heterospory, producing both microspores and megaspores in some lineages, is an important evolutionary precursor to the seed habit. Major classes include Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, and Pteropsida. Gymnosperms are the seed plants whose ovules and seeds are exposed rather than enclosed. They show adaptations to reduce water loss, such as thick cuticles and sunken stomata. Some form associations like mycorrhizae, or develop specialized roots such as the coralloid roots of cycads. Gymnosperms are heterosporous and bear male and female cones. The male gametophyte is reduced to the pollen grain, and fertilization occurs when a pollen tube delivers sperm to the egg. No free water is required for gamete transfer. Familiar examples include cycas, pinus, ginkgo, and sequoia. Finally, angiosperms are the flowering plants and the most diverse group. Their pollen and ovules are produced in flowers, and seeds are enclosed within fruits. Angiosperms are broadly classified into monocots with one cotyledon and dicots with two. A hallmark of angiosperm reproduction is double fertilization. One sperm fertilizes the egg to form the diploid zygote, while the other fuses with the central cell's nuclei to form the triploid primary endosperm nucleus, which nourishes the developing embryo. This innovation contributes to the wide ecological success of flowering plants. To recap briefly, algae are thalloid and aquatic with no vascular tissue. Bryophytes are gametophyte dominant, rhizoid bearing amphibians. Pteridophytes are the first vascular plants with a dominant sporophyte. Gymnosperms produce exposed seeds and pollen tubes, and angiosperms combine flowers, enclosed seeds, and double fertilization to maximize reproductive success. In conclusion, from microscopic algae to towering angiosperms, the plant kingdom tells a continuous story of adaptation and innovation, a progression of structural and reproductive changes that allowed plants to colonize new habitats and become central to Earth's ecosystems. Understanding these steps gives us a clearer view of how plant diversity arose and why plants are essential to life on our planet.